Sorry. We're just having a little bit of fun back here. Anyway, hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Sacred You, our beautiful community. I'm here today in shining light on our community with the wonderful Natasha Sharma. Hi, Tasha. Natasha. Nice.
Hi.
It's nice to see you again. Can you give people a quick review of who you are?
So my name is Natasha Sharma. By profession, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I am a published author, a speaker, and a mentor. I passionately teach and guide and mentor people through the process of money and manifestation and its relationship to self-worth. My mission is to talk about death openly and often so that it becomes a day-to-day dinner table conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, today we're going to talk about mindset mastery and the practice of radical acceptance. Could you please explain what radical acceptance is for people who are not aware of it?
Okay, no problem. That would be my pleasure. So the reference to this is I've just written a chapter in the book called Mindset Mastery, and my chapter is Here We Go Again, and it's a practice of radical acceptance. So in my journey of self-awareness, which has taken place over the last 10 years, and it's still work in progress as in everything in life, and it's about the journey rather than the destination, as you know, Gretchen. And that's what I've written about for people who are new on the path, who are sort of making their way, to show them that on the other side, what it can look like. And what I've discovered so far is that when we say things like, it is what it is, which just becomes such a commonplace phrase nowadays, I don't think we put enough weight to what that actually means. They're very sacred, very meaningful words when you say it is what it is. If you're saying that, not flippantly, if you're saying that meaningfully, the energy behind it is that of radical acceptance to what is. And it is about the process of surrendering. And surrendering doesn't mean a giving up. In my experience, it means a giving in to the flow, to what is. And that's what I've written about in the chapter. And obviously, at the end of the day, we only achieve that by joy and intense gratitude, really. So that's what it means to me.
That's very nice. I agree with you. I mean, I don't say it is what it is very often, unless I know that I'm in the space where that is appropriate. Because, like you said, radical responsibility is acceptance of the now, here, present, where you are at this moment, not about what's coming or what was before. It's a separation between those two, a surrendering to the flow and living within that energetic vibration of, yes, this is where I am. I do know where I am, and I know where I'm going.
Absolutely. And what you're saying also gives into the thought of when you said 100% responsibility. It's responsibility for our own thoughts, our own actions, our own emotions, and expectations. And I think more or less people face resistance when their expectations are not met. I need to be treated in a certain way, or I want this thing, or this person should do this. And that's when you are not really in flow.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, because when you're making other people responsible for how you feel about something, you've just given them your own power and released it from yourself. So you're actually surrendering to someone else rather than your own energetic vibration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
I just want everybody to understand this is a very difficult concept for a lot of people. It took me quite a while to understand that when I expect other people to behave in a certain way and they don't, it is my responsibility to release my expectation and just be present rather than expecting everybody else to bow down for what my expectation is. And that is part of it's part of being radically responsible for yourself and everything that's revolving around you. Because ultimately, if we're not responsible for ourselves, we're giving everybody else power to manipulate us in their belief that they're right.
Absolutely. And another thing, how this concept presents itself on the healing journey is that as we unlayer and we peel back the layers and we go deeper and deeper and deeper, after every layer, even as healers or people who have like partaken in healing, it's very common to suddenly feel desolate, to feel that things are not going your way, even if you're in 100% acceptance, because it's life and life is cyclical. It is seasonal. There's night and there's day, there's happiness and there's sadness. It can't always be summertime. It has to be spring and autumn and winter. And therefore there has to be sadness and loss and happiness and joy and all of those things mixed together. And that's what I'm writing about. I say, here we go again, because I found myself back to square one, or at that point in time, I thought it was square one. What I didn't realize is that I had shifted, and it was the start of the next level. So it felt like the start of forever, but it wasn't. It was the start of the next level. And what happens is, as you heal and you, whatever modality you choose to use for your healing, it can be therapy, it can be meditation, it can be yoga, you can go to a shaman, you can go to a healer. There's so many different things that you can do, and all roads lead to Rome, and everything doesn't work for everybody. But as you gather your tools on your journey, when you do re-enter a new cycle at the bottom, you'll find that it's at least easier and faster to cycle through it, because now you have the tools. So it does get easier. But does it mean that we don't have to do it? No, it is a journey, like I said, and you know, Gretchen, it's never ending till the day we die, and growth is necessary, and expansion is necessary, and it's a continuous process.
Yeah. So how do we get people to accept that as you grow, it isn't failure that you're experiencing, it's actually the start of a new lesson that you are walking into, without feeling angry, frustrated, or that you've been kind of shoved out the door and on your own again?
Again, it's interesting you should ask this question, because I've been reflecting on this point actually for the last few weeks. And because of course I've been talking about mindset mastery a lot, and so therefore it's come up. And what I've realized is a lot of it is maturity. Like, I've seen people like my grandmother who may not have necessarily gone through any of these practices in order to reach her self-awareness, but she did reach an age and stage of life and that wisdom that comes from maturity, and she did come onto this, level of awareness and acceptance. But for the most part of the population who's like younger and who may not grow to be 80 and 90 and 100 years old, even when you reach like a milestone like a 40, I'm finding 40 to be a game changer, especially amongst women. And I think it's a different discussion, but I feel that really ties into the whole menopause story as well. Like, it's a different stage of life. There's a flowering of a different part of you. And what happens to everybody at a certain stage of their lives is that they're given the opportunity to be grateful for everything they've gone through so far. Because they are who they are today because of all those experiences and the traumas that shape them. They're able to reach a place where they can just let it all go. Let it all go, focus on the present moment, like you and I started off talking about, and moving into the future and flow with no resistance. Now, that opportunity, I think, comes to everybody in their own unique life paths at their own unique times. But I think it's to watch out for that opportunity and then to grab it when it comes.
Because I hear from women all the time, like when their children leave and all of a sudden it's an empty nest, and now it's just them and their partner, or maybe they're alone because they're a single parent, whether it's a male or female, or they're looking at retirement and going, well, what do I do now? And I keep saying, this is your opportunity to really explore what comes next. What can you take from all you've experienced and now put it into play in a radically different way that perhaps you hadn't thought of before? And I'm wondering why. I know a lot of that influence comes from the media. Like you hit 45, you're menopausal, all of a sudden you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't. Like, we're told everything we can't do. How do we change that narrative for people? Because the I don'ts, I can'ts, I shouldn't stop so many people from walking into that next phase with the joy that they should be facing.
See, like I said, I've been identifying that time of life because of a lot of conversations I've been having recently. And like you said, it's the empty nesting, perimenopause or menopause, depending on where a person is, a recalibration of life, this whole thing in the media and in society and in the workplace that
Mhm.
doesn't respect a woman going into menopause. They're barely just accepting period leave and,
Yeah,
puberty. Now they have to like accept the other part and they just can't be done with it. So when I say they, I mean, the people who run the companies and HR and all of that, right? So it's a conversation that has to start like any other conversation and concept. The more it's spoken about, the more mainstream it'll become. You
right.
need people to advocate for it. You need people in companies to talk to their HR and say, hey, you need to provide for the fact that I am, there's hormones and, whatever the person needs. And again, it's highly individual. Like
Mhm.
personally, I menopaused overnight at 45. I'm 49 now, and I didn't have any of the symptoms. However, I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's not the same story for everybody.
Yeah.
And each person needs something that is personal to them. So I guess change comes one step at a time, one person at a time. If there's one
Mhm.
person listening to us today live or listening to the replay who resonates with a little bit of what we're talking about, and that even starts that person on self-reflection, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the second chapter has to be like something huge. You don't have to necessarily, I mean, you can, but you don't necessarily have to step back into the corporate life and become CEO of, a big company or
Sure.
anything. You can if you want to. Like I said, it could just be downsizing and taking responsibility for that. Just, I think it boils down to finding your joy and
Mhm.
stepping away from all of that shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't.
Yeah.
And then not dwelling in the past of regrets, not dwelling in the hurt of this major change of empty nesting. Having a child that's been dependent on you for so many years suddenly doesn't need you anymore. It's huge.
Yeah.
And you may have done everything in your power to make them independent and a good human being, but then eventually they're gone, right? And that must be huge. And then, the perimenopause thing can go on for 10 full years. And, we went through puberty and we know that it's just the other end of the same stick.
Yeah.
And, there to find things which bring you joy, like I said, to remember what it was like to be a child. What were the things you enjoyed then, and try to bring that into today. It can be as small as that.
Mhm.
Anything that helps us focus on the present moment and stay grounded to the present, to be able to look at the past with fond memories and just let go of the traumatic bits. And if you can't, then you need to seek help. You need to go to therapy. You need to, work on yourself
Yeah.
with whatever modality works for you, really. I mean, you've done the work, Gretchen. I have, and, you know,
Still doing.
yeah.
Like you said, it
So
doesn't
there,
stop. I mean,
yeah.
I'm hitting what people would call the old age generation. I'm like, well, that's your opinion because I have
Mhm.
so much going on and so much I'm excited about doing. I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to that. Yet I have friends who are like, I'm so excited about retiring. I said, well, what are you going to do? And they're like, nothing. I said, well, what a waste. You have all this
Yeah,
information, you have all this wisdom, all this stuff you've collected, like you've got to start sharing that with people. Pass on the knowledge. Our grandparents did it. Well, my grandparents, your grandparents do that, your parents do that for you. Why can't you do it for the next generation? Like join I don't know, a nutrition circle, like start a nutrition circle or a health circle or
mhm,
whatever. Just don't hoard the information that you have been gifted with throughout your life. Share it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm nowhere close to quitting my stuff at all. Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. And like you said, there's communities like this where you can like contribute so much. You can
yeah,
start writing, you can start speaking, you can, it doesn't even have to be speaking like on a stage or even on a podcast or lives. You can just speak to your local, communities or, your friends, get them together and talk about stuff. There's so many little ways in which we can break down the seemingly big things
yeah,
to bring it
I
home.
agree. I mean, the statistics tell us that most people who retire don't have something else that they're doing. And I think it was 52% of men and 38% of women are dead within 18 months of retirement.
I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not sure about the numbers, but I think I'm pretty close to what the national averages are. And I'm thinking, okay, so when I turn 65, you expect me to die in 18 years? No, I'm going to live to 150. I got too much shit. I got to get out. So I'm sorry. I'm not even halfway done. So,
I love it.
when you consider how long you can actually live and you decide, because you do get to decide when your life is over, that is
Mhm.
actually in your hands. I'm not going to retire. Why should I? I get to meet fantastic people like you, have these amazing conversations inside our community and outside. I'm starting a new podcast. I'm already on another podcast. I'm like, just like starting all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of doing even 5 years ago.
Oh, I love
Because
that.
people ask me stuff all the time, and I'm like, when we had the pandemic, people were asking me all the time, well, what should I do? I mean, I've been a nurse and in the wellness field for 30 years, and they're like, what should I do? And I said, well, instead of telling everybody, I just went and wrote a book. So just go
Hmm.
get the book. Then you can find out for yourself. Like I don't have to. I just say people here, go get the book. There it is. It's $10. Just go get it and read it, and you'll have the same information as having a conversation with me. So,
Uh-huh.
if you have information like that, write a little PDF, write a little story, get it on
Yeah.
Amazon. Tell people it's there. Share that information, and they'll share it with the next and the next and the next. This is
Hmm.
the information that we have available, and access to it is free to anybody who wants to do it.
Right.
So I love what you're
Absolutely.
doing. I love that you're looking at it and going, okay, so if we accept where we are right now and we have all this information, why are we hoarding it? Let's start talking. Let's start sharing. Let's get this stuff out everywhere. I
Absolutely.
just think
Because at the end of the day, Gretchen, you know that no concept is unique, right? The things that we're talking about, you and I haven't invented it. We're not the only ones talking about it.
no,
However, there are certain voices that reach certain people at certain times when they're ready, which is why it's
exactly.
important, like you said, to step up, to share. Like in the olden days, when they were communities, it was the elders' responsibility to pass it on. Now,
Yeah,
today, the world has changed. So we just have to be cognizant of the fact that it's evolution, it's online, resources are abundant. Just because they're abundant doesn't mean that we don't need to add our voice to the mix, right?
exactly. Exactly. Because I mean, I've been on this journey for a long time, in and out of it for many years until I had some health issues and I really had to look down and say, okay, what is it I can actually do that is not
Hmm.
going to continue to hurt me, but still provide me with, excuse me, I'm just getting over something. I don't know what. Sorry.
No problem.
That provides me with the excitement and joy that I felt when I was doing my other job.
Hmm.
And then I looked at all the things that I had acquired throughout all these years of working and being a mother and, all the things that I did. And I thought, well, I have information. Other people
Yep.
don't have this information. I listened to all kinds of different people until I found 4 or 5 that I could actually resonate with, even though
Hmm.
they were often saying the same thing. There are people you connect with energetically because they're talking your language. And you can go online and listen to lectures all day from
Hmm.
around the world on a million different subjects. So
Hmm.
why are you not doing that instead of watching Netflix or the news? Right?
Spot on.
Yeah.
That's really
Like
good.
don't get me wrong. I love Netflix. I have a blast with
So do
Netflix.
I, but
But
I know where you're coming from. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't watch the news because they're not going to tell me anything that is fun, exciting, or interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay. They're going to tell me how bad the world is.
Hmm.
Well, I don't need to know that. What I need to know is that there are people out there like you who are asking people to step up and change the story that is around them.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important. I'd rather be listening to these kind of things than going and saying, "Oh my God, did you hear what was going on here or there?" This. I don't care who's corrupt. I don't care who's stealing from who. If I can change one person's opinion of themselves, if I can help one person step into the power that they already own, that changes the entire world for them.
Yeah,
If we do it enough, it changes the entire world for the community. And if we do that
exactly.
enough, it changes the cities, it changes the way we look at things, and we start to see changes around the world.
Yes,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
what you are doing is amazing because you talk about death in a casual kind of way, as I do, because of, I saw a lot of it, and I'm like, we die.
Yes.
That's the end of the story, but it's not the end of what you did.
Hmm.
So if you're not sharing the story, then yes, that is the end. But if you're sharing your story, you're sharing your lessons, you're sharing who you are, that story never ends because someone else picks up the thread from you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
you're
That
allowing people to do with what you
I
do
hope
is to,
so.
yeah, pick up the thread from your grandmother, your mother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whoever it was that impacted you. You're now using their story to enhance your and sharing that with the rest of the people. Because honestly, we never really die. Our story continues somewhere else.
Sure. Yes. Of course, by the legacy that we leave behind, or even that one life that we impacted,
Yeah.
and the messages, like you said, that the ancestors have led us to. Like I read something a while ago that was quite profound, and it basically said that today, if you just look at yourself today, you are the dream of all your ancestors before you. I was like,
Exactly.
whoa, like,
What a
oh my
concept.
goodness,
Isn't
what
that
they have
beautiful?
gone through to make sure I was alive today. We
Yeah.
never think like that. We
Yeah.
think, oh, they're dead and gone. But oh my goodness, it made me, just literally like just bow down with gratitude,
Okay.
in that moment when I
Here's
read
another
that.
one for you. The eggs that you carried were carried by your mother,
Uh-huh.
who were
Yes.
who were carried by your grandmother, your great grandma. Like
Yes.
literally, you are physically
Yes.
part of your ancestor because that egg was inside your mother, which was inside your grandmother, which is inside your great grandmother, et cetera, et cetera. You
Yeah.
are not an individual. You are part of this huge line of people. And within me, I carry my children who carry their children, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes both ways. We have this huge stream of all these people sitting inside of us,
Yes.
generation after generation. The story never dies. And we
Yeah.
are here because of everything they went through to get us here. It's just I mean, it is 14 billion. I think it's 14 billion to one that you actually exist. The numbers are staggering.
Wow. I have
And
heard this about the eggs. I have. And the other part of that goes back to the beginning of our conversation about responsibility. So all the intergenerational trauma, or the stories that we carry, like this, the negative stories, like the unhealed stories, not negative, the
yeah,
unhealed stories that have been passed down. Therefore, it is our responsibility to put a stop to that and not pass that on to the continuing line. And
yeah,
so that's where 100% responsibility for myself,
yeah.
to stop this story, to improve it, to heal it, to imbibe it with love, so that it goes forward and blossoms into something beautiful down the line for the future generations. That's
Yeah,
also really important. So,
I agree.
the
Yeah,
self-responsibility has a lot of impact.
yeah. It's just like my daughter told me that I was crazy. I said, great, it's inherited, so that would make you crazy too. I mean, like it just because I don't think a lot of us think like, you can say your mother, your father, your grandmother, they were crazy. Well, guess what? You're part of them. So those genes are within you. How are you going to care for that? How are you going to
Right.
do like like I'm fine, I'm crazy, whatever, call me weird, whatever. It doesn't matter because I know that I am who I am and I love who I am and I get to be this person every morning when I get up. I'm different than the day before because I learned
Right.
something new. And accepting that as radical responsibility, every day I get to learn something new. I get to move to a different place. I get to grow a little more. Means I get to pass that on to my children and say, did you know? Have you heard? That's
Hmm.
awesome. Trying to get them to accept do the radical responsibility is a little challenging because they're still young, but at
Yes.
least they're hearing about it. And I think
Yes,
that's
of course.
important.
And when the
Yeah.
time is right, they'll make the switch. And then, the younger generations are also evolving really
Oh
fast.
yeah, they're awesome.
So maybe what we're facing at 40, they'll face at 30. I mean, you never know, 30, 35.
Yeah.
The,
My
the
daughters are
maturing, because they're how old?
my daughters are in the thick of it. They're 25 and 26, and
Ah,
I,
that's
I've
okay.
Yeah, and I mean, these girls are just, I watch them in awe about what they are doing to help change the
Mm,
world, and I could not be prouder. It's not always safe and it's not always pretty, but
mhm.
they're standing up there in the front lines saying, no, you can't do this, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen. So I'm like, that's awesome.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah, it's really cool to watch and scary as heck. So I'm like, do I need bail money this week? Let's find out. So but I said to my kids, if that's what happens, it's worth it because you guys are doing amazing. So keep it up. If you,
That's really important. That's really important. On a completely different note, I just wanted to ask you, what I did was I went onto Amazon Australia and I pulled up the Amazon link, the Australian Amazon link for Mindset Mastery. So is that possible to like put it for the viewers on our live somehow? I mean, I don't know how to do
I
that
don't know,
stuff.
we can give it a go. We can give it to one of the VAs and see what they can do. But yeah,
Oh, so we can't paste it right now.
um, I was sure that Sophia is in there trying to figure out how to do it. Because as far as I know, like it's the same with my book. I just tell them go to your Amazon because I know my book is available in Australia and
Mhm.
find my name. Go to books and then find your name and they should bring up all the books that are available. If not, then they'll have to do a
Ah,
connect. Yeah,
oh, that's clever. I never thought of it like that.
yeah. Because I figure it's instead of telling them what the name of the book is, I said just go look me up on Amazon and everything that I have there will come up.
Oh, but there would be little issue there because my author central page is on Amazon.com. And
Yeah,
when the Australians go there, then they still have to redirect themselves to Australia, and not everyone knows how to do that.
yeah. But if they go to, have you gone to Australia, the Australia.com, what's it called? COAUS dot something. Have you gone into the Australian website and see if your book's available there? Because I know
Yeah,
my
and
book,
I have the Amazon link, but I don't know if
yeah.
my author central page is there. I haven't checked that.
Oh,
You just
interesting.
gave me that information.
Yeah, because I know mine's available in the UK. I'm not sure if it's available in Australia. I know it's on the international page, so I wanna.
So, but the thing is that when you go to pay, when you go to purchase, then you have to, this is what I've learned with experience. When you go to purchase any book, even if it's a Kindle version, then it
Yeah,
has to be available on your local Amazon. So
yeah,
even though it's been released on Amazon.com, so when I gave that link, for example, to my family in the UK,
yeah.
they couldn't buy it. They had to go to Amazon.co.uk. So then I started providing the separate links, which is why
Ah, okay.
I got the Australian link for you before we started talking, so we could share that with our
Great.
viewers.
Yeah, shoot it over to Sophia and she'll make sure it shows up.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be the quickest way to do it. I didn't think of that because I know that people in the UK have bought my book and I didn't hear them have any issues. So they just went
Some
under the
people are
UK.
smart because all you have to do is there's a box on the right hand side that says click
Yeah,
your own country, but not everyone looks up on the right. So
that's a good point.
that's why I've decided to just
Good for you.
supply it.
Yeah, I would like everybody to read the book because your chapter alone is really interesting. And I, I love the way you talk about, okay, I heard this poem called The Dot, from the time you're born to the time you die.
Uh-huh.
The dot is what you do. But I'm thinking, yeah, but the dot doesn't help you explain the D, the death. Like if we're not aware that, okay, if we're not fully cognizant that there are things we have to put in place before we die, personally, financially, with our families, our lawyers, whatever, then we get to the end and then our family has to deal with the mess.
Hmm.
So part of being radically responsible and accepting of who you are means you have to put all those things in place so your family doesn't have to do it because then it becomes really messy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we're talking about this subject, then this I deal with in great detail in my first chapter, which was in wealth codes,
Hmm.
which I've spoken about here before. So now that my new book is released, Mindset Mastery, I'll be happy to just give my chapter from wealth codes to the listeners or to the members of Sacred You. So what I'll do is I'll give Wilma the uh, to post it, that if people write to me on email, I'll email the PDF copy of my chapter, which is The Beauty of the End Game, Finding Abundance Through Accepting Death, which you and I spoke about. And I just
That's
love
so
that conversation. Oh my goodness. You and I like are so, our professions are so different, our life experiences are so different, yet we come together to discuss the similar outtake from those experiences, and that
Yeah.
was just so wonderful.
Yeah, I really
That
enjoyed
the
that.
language of what we're talking about is so global.
It is, yeah. And I mean, it doesn't, I mean, the whole ritual that surrounds death, of course, is different in many different cultures, but the ultimate thing that is the same is, what does the family do?
Hmm.
And if that's not in place, it doesn't matter how spectacular and beautiful and loving that ritual or ceremony is, you still have to deal with the aftermath of that. Like you're
Yes.
saying, with radical responsibility, radical acceptance, if we are not accepting our part in our life today, how are we ever going to accept the end of our life and make sure that everybody else is going to be fine when we're
Yeah.
not here and they don't have to clean it all up for us? Because I don't like people cleaning up my messes.
Exactly, and that's exactly where the responsibility thing kicks in. And the other thing that I think we touched on in our last conversation was the fact that when people grow older and they are, let's say, haven't put their affairs into order, but let's
Uh-huh.
say they're getting older and weaker, or they have a terminal disease and they're getting weaker, they just end up getting into the flow of things, which is leading towards the acceptance of their demise, and they start feeling the material world is no longer important,
Right.
and so is also leaving the possession to XYZ and their affairs. It stops mattering to them, which is why it's even more important that we do it now. We do it when we're hale and hearty, and so when we are coming towards the end, we're allowed to
Yeah.
just do that process in peace. And then, like you said, once we're gone, that the people we're leaving behind, we leave them in peace to grieve in peace, right? So
Yeah.
it's about doing it today. It's not about putting it off. Like, Gretchen, between when you and I spoke last and now, I've just become so, like you said, matter of fact and so easy in my discussions about death. I actually, last week, I was traveling and I went to meet like some of my mother's friends, just few of them who are alive, and they were like, still alive. And they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I talk about death. I write about death, to these elderly people. And they're like, what do you mean you talk about death? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, what's there not to talk about? And they're like, oh, no, let's not talk about it. I still haven't written my will. I'm like, why not? Why
Yeah.
don't you? Like, and
Yeah.
just my audacity basically is shocking them, if nothing else, right? And
Well, that's
hopefully,
okay.
like we said, if I can change 1%, and if for that, if my friends and family who are their descendants benefit from that, then
Yeah.
hallelujah, I've done something good.
Exactly. Because I mean, when realistically, we don't actually know what that number is when we are no longer here. So if you're waiting until you're 70, well, what happens if you don't reach it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think about these things as I'm wandering around the city, which I don't like doing because it's really cold out right now, but it's nice. Anyway, when I'm wandering around, I'm going traveling, I always make sure that all my documents are in order in case or if something
Mhm.
happens. Sorry. My kids need to be aware of what's going to come next.
Absolutely. That's the responsible thing to do. So that ties in with our first thing of like talking about being responsible.
Sorry.
No problem. Do you want to have a sip of water?
It keeps catching me by surprise. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, hopefully that's it. Okay. Anyway,
Well, that's what happens because the itch at the back of the throat, it keeps on getting caught when you talk.
I don't know. I haven't coughed like this all day.
Ah.
Anyway, all right. So let's talk about how people can get in touch with you.
So the best way is to follow me on Instagram, bodyspeak.in on Instagram. So that's bodyspak.in. That's my handle. And there's a lot of things like evolving in terms of like the podcast that I'm speaking on. There's the first book, Wealth Codes, the current book, Mindset Mastery. And then I'm part of my publisher's first children's collaboration. So it's going to be like 25 short stories written by 25 different authors, different stories for different children. And it's all coming together. And that's going to be launched in May 2023. And, Gretchen, things like this is proof to me of the stuff we're talking about, that when you find your energetic place and you attract your tribe of women where we have energetically aligned conversations, you're fully supported, things just flow in a way that you could not have even imagined when you were trying to manifest, right? And that's what's happening to me. So, I signed up for this children's book, very, very, excited, hey, I'm going to write, it's about children with, bravery and courage. That's the theme. And so I was like, oh, I know sibling rivalry is a really good subject, because, parents really underestimate the impact of sibling rivalry. And, as much as the kid who's hearing the story, the parent who's reading it to them, if I can reach them as well, that would be fantastic. So, that was my idea. When I was 3, my brother was born. I had to share the limelight with him, and I hated it. I hated him. I hated everything. And my parents did nothing to, sort of mitigate it. They said, oh, the kids will grow up, adjust, whatever the parents think about siblings. I don't know. So I tried to murder him, in the sense that I, carried him out to the garden, threw him in my mother's prized daffodil patch, and asked the fairies and elves to take him away. So that was my murder attempt. And I decided to write about that. And the most, I still get goosebumps when I just think about this and when I talk about it. But so in my first thinking of the story, of course, in the story, in the fictionalized version, the fairy or the elf is going to be real. They're going to talk to the girl and explain to her about, love is getting doubled, it's not getting halved, and you just have to be patient and blah, blah, blah. And the elf would like be polishing the daffodils, and that would be its job, that kind of thing. And then when I was trying to title the chapter, my nephew was helping me, and he turned around and said to me, what do daffodils represent? And I was like, I don't know, like, honestly, it could have been any flower, right? So anyway, I went off, I Googled it, and oh my God, Gretchen, this will not surprise you, but daffodils represent resilience and rebirth. They are the first flowers that come out in springtime in England. When they bloom is when England knows it's officially spring. So it starts in southern England and moves up in February and moves up England to northern England, where I was born. I was born in Manchester. So by the end of March, you have the full yellow wave. And the most amazing part is that daffodils have to be left alone after they wilt. You have to leave them alone. You shouldn't tie them. You should not behead them. So unlike other plants where dead parts of the plant like leach nutrition, with daffodils it's the other way around. You have to leave them alone, because the bulb takes all the nutrition from the soil, from the sun, from the dying flower, and stores it in the bulb for next spring. So if you cut them beforehand, it will not be healthy enough to flower next spring. So now, can you imagine what's happened to my story? My elf is now the caretaker of that bulb. It's again about death. It's about rejuvenation. It's about resilience. And this only happened because the flower was a daffodil. And it's just the biggest proof to me that I am in alignment, that now yes, I'm doing, my mission is to talk about death. I was going to talk about change and connect that to death. And I wasn't going to bring death per se into the conversation in this book for children. But here it is, right here in front of me.
Well, if we don't tell our children, surprise, your dad's dead. No, that doesn't work, right?
I know.
Funnily enough, the daffodil here in Canada is a symbol for cancer research.
Oh. It's not the pink bow? Oh, that's breast cancer.
Yeah, we have the daffodils for cancer research.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, because we don't want people to die. Like, we know people are going to die, right?
Uh-huh.
But the whole idea of the research behind cancer research, we have one of the largest hospitals in the world that is doing research in the cancer, and it's proving the money that people give every year on the daffodil run that we have helps research so that people don't have to die of cancer.
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. This is, it's all confirmation and reconfirmation to me that I'm, on the right path right now. I found my purpose, at least for right now. And what I am talking and doing is fully supported. And yeah, I'm in the right place. And I feel really grateful and honored and privileged that I've been chosen for
Well,
this
I
mission.
absolutely enjoy our conversations. I want many, many more because I'm always learning and exploring with you, and I think that is fantastic. And the information that you're giving to people, I hope, is resonating with them, so that they too can start asking questions within their own family and for themselves.
Oh,
So
that would
thank
be
you.
brilliant. The day it happens, I'll know my mission is complete.
Never done until it's over, and that's not going to happen for a long time because our journey never ends. We get to come back and do it again, right?
True.
Better. Yeah, better. Anyway, Natasha, always a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thank you,
I don't know
Gretchen.
how to turn this off. I never know how to turn these things
I
off.
love our conversations too, and we should do more of it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to another one with you because I'm telling you, I have so much fun and it is so interesting. And we just roam all over the place and it all seems to come back and just sit where it needs to. And it is such a pleasure. Thank you.
Same. Thank you for having me, Gretchen. Thank you so much.